Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, From Buzz to Bucks, Measuring Social Media ROI. I'm TJ McHugh, your moderator today, and I want to do a couple of quick housekeeping items. And first, we have a little WebEx chat box in the lower right of your screen, and you can send messages in, and we'll be able to look at those questions and potentially interact. During this webinar, we view it as a conversation and exploration, so we hope you'll join in. You may also join in, of course, on Twitter. We're using the hashtag, the #, buzz2bucks, and you can see it on your screen there. #, buzz2bucks, and that will allow us to all see what everybody else is saying on Twitter. And without further ado, I want to jump in and make an intro of our wonderful panelists that we've got today. We've got two all-stars, and first, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, who's joining us from Marketing Sherpa. Many of you probably know Marketing Sherpa. It's one of the top marketing resources out on the web today. And Todd Lebo, who heads marketing and business development there, is going to be sharing some awesome results from many of the studies, from a couple of different studies and research pieces that they've done. And it will help us understand how to measure social media today and get a return. And we also have Scott Fasser from Optify, who is Director of Customer Experience and works closely with Optify customers and knows the marketing landscape very, very well. And so we're thrilled to have both of them sharing their expertise today. And without further ado, because we have lots of great stuff to come, I'm going to turn it over to Todd Lebo. And Todd, I know that we've got challenges out there to social media marketing effectiveness, and I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, as all the participants would as well. It's all yours.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, TJ, and thank you for everybody for attending today's. And our sole purpose of today is to provide you some very practical and proven research and how-tos on how to really take your social media and produce that ROI that we're all so desperately looking to accomplish. And of course, I work for Marketing Sherpa. If you're not familiar with Marketing Sherpa, we are a research firm, and we perform research and provide that research to marketers. We talk to thousands of marketers each and every year, do case studies and research that our goal is to make it, very practical, very proven. We don't like to live in the ivory tower of what we think would work or what we think is great, but truly what is working for marketers like everybody who's on the line today. So we thank you. You make our job a lot easier by providing us your experiences and giving us quantifiable research to show what's truly working. So with that, we're going to take a look and start with some Marketing Sherpa research on social media marketing and some of the challenges to the effectiveness of social media marketing. This is based on a research that we did back at the beginning of this year. We talked to over 2,300 marketers, and some interesting challenges that we are all facing. And I'm sure that you can sit there in your office today and talk to your team, or maybe you are the team, and these probably resonate with you. See the first one, getting targeted audiences to engage and participate. So the concept of social media is great, and we always want to get that community talking and to build our brand and to be looked at as a thought leader. But how do we do that? How do we engage? Example, we've had obviously a lot out there are using our blogs very effectively, trying to take content and repurpose it and start to get more people looking at it so that we can start truly using social media for the ultimate goal, which is to take the challenges we have as marketers and to start to overcome them. Social media is just like search, it's just like email. It's a tactic that we want to use to overcome the marketing challenge. So as we look here, we see these very interesting challenges that we're all facing if we were in a live auditorium, I'm sure we could put our hands up and we'd say, yeah, we're having a hard time. How do we convert these followers, these fans, to paying customers? The lack of a social marketing strategy, and this one here is something we're going to talk about as we move forward, because the lack of a social marketing strategy has been kind of a trend, what we've seen over the last 2 years as we've been doing this research. And what we found has been social media was very easy for marketers to get into. We could start, Twitter, we could start the LinkedIn group, but very small barriers of entry. But what is the strategy, and how is it helping us to meet these goals that we have, these ROI objectives, these lead generation objectives? And that's an area where marketers are struggling. And that's some of the things that we want to start talking about today. Scott, I'm sure that you, through your experience with talking and working with marketers, have found that some of these challenges are probably spot on for what you've experienced.
Yeah, Todd, everybody's really looking for a way to engage in social media that, drives business results. And, between sort of the shotgun approach versus the, hired gun approach, there's definitely a need for a more strategic approach and a way to sort of measure everything. But everybody's excited about social media. They just want to do it right, do it most efficiently, really.
Yeah, I know we've, I kind of related to, over the last 2 years, social media has been a little bit like the Wild Wild West, and marketers have jumped in, and, we had the guns blazing, and now, as the, smoke starts clearing, we're being asked the more difficult questions. We're being asked, what type of ROI are we receiving? How is this helping to generate leads? And really having to quantify and prove to that next level, that C level of, what's the justification for, possibly adding staff for social media? Why should I be taking somebody who, could be working on another tactic to the social media plan? So I think that's kind of like that the Wild Wild West is starting to, to be a thing of the past, and now we're getting back to very traditional marketing questions and solving marketing problems.
Yep.
So with that, the next slide we're going to look at is social media. It's a tactic. It's a way of solving challenges, and you can see here some of the challenges of. This is kind of showing on lead generation. You start looking at B2B marketers, and what are some of the challenges B2B marketers have? I know that one of our research studies we showed that some of the challenges are generating high quality leads. How do you balance quantity versus quality? The aspect of a long and complex buying cycle with a lot of people involved. So at the end of the day, B2B marketers, in this chart here, we're going to look at how do we generate leads? What are the best approaches? And this chart is showing on the y-axis the aspect of the amount of leads that we're generating via a tactic. And as we go out on the x-axis, it's the cost associated. So as we go further out, these tactics are more costly, but as we move, the bubble goes up, we see that it's producing more. So, marketers, right now we're looking at, for example, house email, SEO, not as much cost involved, and they can produce, done correctly, we can produce a lot of leads. But we also have, paid search, you'll see is further over. And the reason for that is because of the cost involved. But now we also see these emerging bubbles of social networking and emerging content. And even within SEO and house email, there's that aspect of how the integration of social to those tactics are helping those tactics perform at a higher level. So when we talk to marketers and we start looking at this data in this chart, what we're starting to look at is thinking about our lead generation as an investment portfolio. And what I mean by that is the investment portfolio, to be strong, is going to have a variety of investments to mitigate our liability, mitigate our risk, and also to overall increase our return on investment, because we have a lot of different types of investments that we're using as compared to just relying on one investment. And likewise, we're finding on obviously generating leads, the more tactics that we can be using effectively, the more that we can have that ship rise and we can find success. And social media, now we're finding more and more cases where it can either tie on to an existing tactic or be, maybe somewhat separate, and generating those leads the marketers need to succeed. And Scott, I'm sure, like previous, I'm sure you have a lot of experience in this area as well.
Yeah, we see social really playing into other channels. So it's not just a channel that is in and of itself, but we also look how it impacts other organic lead generation, brand building, and those types of things. But yeah, I totally agree.
And I've just adjusted my, I just got a comment that my audio was a little high, so I've adjusted it down a little. If anybody has problems hearing me now, please let me know, and we'll make adjustments.
That's much better, Tom. Thank you.
Okay, great. So now we have a little bit of idea, and we're trying to set this up and really looking at the fact of social media is, we have challenges, but ultimately we need to find strategies that help us accomplish this marketing goal, and here the marketing goal of lead generation. So as we move on to the next slide, this is a fun slide that we have used for recent training for social marketing, and it really kind of shows the fact that right now a lot of our social marketing plans look a little bit like this, where there's not really an objective and an architecture, and as a result, not as many results that we would like. And we see, because we've all jumped into social marketing so quickly, that what we're trying to do is take this diagram with a lot of different, Twitter and Dig, and actually it's kind of interesting because this shows a lot of some of the social media platforms that have come and gone already within a year. So as we can see that we jump onto the platform, and that's great, but at the end of the day, really it's the strategy that will sustain what we are trying to accomplish. And Scott, this probably fits in a little bit with what you're trying to accomplish as far as helping marketers, get their social media from the device to the actual implementation and the strategy part of the marketing plan.
Yeah, I love the random acts of social marketing catchphrase, and I think it's been really true. But what we're working with our customers is how do you sort of take the things that are hard that are hard metrics and things that are soft metrics, and how do you look at that over an engagement with a prospect or a group of clients. And social media is still so young in general. It's growing like crazy, obviously, but it's still very young. And so the metrics are being created, the metrics are being developed, how you manage them is all being in the early stages, but having a framework to start to understand where people are on the process and what you can and can't measure is something we're going to be focused on.
Well, let me jump in real quick. I think we should probably say this is sort of a play on practice random acts of kindness, right? But we want to say do not practice random acts of social marketing. We want to build a strategy, and I know you're going to dig in deeper there, Todd, so I'm looking forward to that.
Right, and it's funny, in social media, when we look at how to do it effectively, I know in one of our courses when we talk about the conversion process and how to optimize the conversion process, we talk about the aspect of walking people through, a process. and how we want to avoid as much as possible unsupervised thinking. And what we mean by that is, we want to, each and every step of the way of the consumer process, on a landing page, for example, we want to have the right pieces at the right timing. And it's a little bit different application, but you look here, and it's that randomness where, it's a lot harder to control. We can't control things on social media, but, we can help influence and move people through the process to more, a more logical method than this random access, this random architecture. And the next slide is going to start kind of looking into, as we started on our second year worth of research on social media, we just saw this dramatic change. And the dramatic change really came from marketers when we started looking at their social marketing maturity. And we found more and more as we were researching that they were actually performing and they were doing social media, but there was no strategy behind it. And so we came up with the Marketing Sherpa roadmap. And the road stands for research, objectives, actions, and devices. And this process, it's not a linear process, but it's a circular process so that we, through our research and defining clear objectives and actions and using the right platforms, that we are, in this circular motion, we are improving. And we are getting better as we go along by understanding our audience and how to provide to them the information they need to engage with us and to get the trust of us that is necessary to grow our universe, to generate more leads. So the roadmap and the research is the gathering of intelligence, from our target audiences, and it's looking and seeing, using the social media to find out that research we need to build the objectives and to take those actions and then to use the proper devices. So now we're getting really back down to what's a solid marketing plan and how can we take and keep improving our marketing so that we learn, we make errors, but we have clear objectives so we actually know what's successful and what's not successful, and then we can act upon that as compared to not having the plan, not being able to know that it's been successful or not. And one example I can use from Marketing Sherpa, we're doing a lot of things that we're not doing correct. And social media, is one of them that we're still learning. But I know that in our events department, over this last year, we really found a way to use social media much more effectively to generate leads and eventually sell tickets for our summits. For example, our upcoming B2B summit. And what we have done is we found that a lot of our partners and our thought leaders in the industry, where they cannot go out and send emails on our behalf, or they don't have the bandwidth to do that or the permission to do that, they can effectively use social media. They can use their Twitter account. They can use their LinkedIn account. And they can partner with us in a very proactive and positive way. So we found as we started providing these thought leaders in the industry, TJ, a thought leader, I think we came in connection about a year ago through social media, and engaging the thought leaders in what we were doing and getting their participation in the conversation, in the engagement, that was something they could do. And we saw a dramatic increase in our attendance by using the social media. But we had a very clear objective and actions based upon what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, Todd, in the framework that I'm going to talk about, we have an engagement phase, and that definitely ties into that phase in terms of finding the right people to talk to, making sure you've got a way to communicate with them, and then you've got some metrics around how you talk to them and how you engage with them. And
we're going to go to the next slide, Scott, because I know that we've already looked at your I've already looked at your stuff, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. So just want to spend a little bit of time of, let's get down to cold hard facts and the things that we all need to really start drilling in on. One is monitoring, and what are marketers monitoring? And you can see here, there's a variety. A lot of people are monitoring visitors, the quantity of the commentary of their brand, and then it kind of gets into some interesting other areas, the sentiment of the engagements, which means the percentage of people who are talking positively versus negatively about your brand. They're starting to monitor the leads they're generating, the engagement with influential bloggers. I can't emphasize enough how we've had success with knowing who the influential bloggers and social media individuals are in our industry and getting to know them. And that really takes a lot of sweat equity to get in there and to develop these relationships. But these are all areas you can see that marketers are starting to try to monitor and use that knowledge to continue to grow their social media. And this next one, this is an example from a free tool, and I'm not advocating the tool per se. It's a great tool, but there's a lot of great tools out there. This is from Social Mention, and it's a fantastic way when you're looking at that competitive analysis to. We used this. We were going some traveling, we were in Boston, New York, and Chicago, so we did a baseball analogy here. By looking at your competitors. So visualize this where you're looking at your two greatest competitors. And here we have social media and some of the free tools, like this one here being Social Mention, that can really give us a very real-time analysis of what the world is doing and thinking about your brand. And if you go to some of these tools, you're going to see things, for example, like the keywords, the hashtags people are using when they that are associated with your brand. It's just a wealth of information that you can use and then start making adjustments. And Scott, I'm sure you and TJ probably both use similar type of tools.
We do. So sentiment is one of those derived metrics that we look at. I would classify that as a little softer than maybe the hard metrics around how many followers you might have or how many tweets you might view, things like that. But it's definitely one of the metrics that we like to keep track of.
If you're like a lot of marketers that we talk to, it is one of those areas where if you have a very defined objective of what you're trying to accomplish, it may take a while to find the right tool and to start to know which benchmarks you want to pay the closest attention to and which benchmarks you can actually apply direct, marketing muscle, so to speak, to actually start influencing. And as we move on to the next slide, this is just we asked marketers what marketing tools and solutions they were using. You can see there's a variety of free tools and also a variety of paid tools that can be very effective. And these are changing every day. So it's something that you probably, I would encourage marketers to join a couple networks where you can find out what other marketers are using and other tools. TJ, I think we're going to have a special download that's going to be available. Is that correct? It's going to have some of the tools that marketers can use.
Oh, definitely. We've got a couple of downloads we'll mention at the end of the presentation, and that's an overview and some blog posts. So, yes, thanks for reminding me.
So that'll be really helpful. And, as I turn over the next part of the presentation to Scott, I'm sorry, we got one more slide. the measuring of objectives. Apologize for that. This is actually a very important slide, and this is from talking to marketers and asking them what they're measuring, and increasing web traffic the whole way down to actually kind of an important one, I think, is reducing customer service support costs. You can see that there's just a variety of ways that objectives and that marketers are using, and actually successfully. We just keep continually seeing case study after case study of how marketers are increasing, for example, lead generation. We have, matter of fact, we're working on our B2B summit right now, and we're just getting some pretty phenomenal case studies from marketers on how they're successfully using social media to generate leads, but then also to nurture leads and make those leads sales ready. So it's pretty innovative. I'm always impressed by how what marketers are doing out there. So with that, I want to pass over the next part to Scott, and Scott, kind of walk us through a little bit of just kind of how to put some meat behind some of these concepts of monitoring and tracking and what to do with the tracking.
Great, thanks, Todd. In this section of the webinar, what we're going to discuss is really a framework for understanding and measuring ROI for your social media program. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it integrates with your other marketing programs, but really what you need to do around social media to more strategically and get metrics that can align your marketing with your social media program. There's a certainly uniqueness and flexibility with social media, and so we have to take that into account as we're building this out. And so what we've created is we've created a framework that looks at the sort of traditional approaches of understanding where you are with your customer engagement, and then also putting some specific metrics and tactics against it. Now, at the end of the day, businesses invest resources to drive business results. The results are different if you're a B2B company or B2C, if you're content or e-commerce or large versus small. But there is a natural progression in relationship going all the way from the unaware person who's out there all the way through to the ongoing customer. Thousands of books and websites have been written about it. The challenge is, how do you understand the impact that social media can have, and how is that social media channel approach, how does that fit in with your overall customer engagement? So we're going to walk through the framework to hopefully give you a little bit better idea. We've been working with our customers with this, and we think it gives them a little bit more structure in terms of how they think about their social media program metrics. So the monitor phase is really about who is saying what about you, your brand, your products, your competitors. As we've all heard, social is a great listening mechanism. Engagement is the next phase. So how do you connect with communities that care about your area of expertise? So how do you formalize the early stage of that relationship? On the promotion part, we're talking about what can you do to really promote your authority on the subject matter? How can you syndicate your content? How do you proactively engage with the community? The nurture stage. Once you've entered a relationship and made connections, how do you keep it going? How do you build your networks? How do you sort of expand that part of the relationship? And then the selling or the closing stage. You're closing the deal, you're landing the customer, and then you're moving on to the relationship monitoring, the relationship ongoing phase. So how do you continue to build that relationship past the conversion? Along the left-hand side, we've got several different elements. We've got trackable metrics. We're going to do a little example around dating to help solidify that, track and measurement, and then reporting results. So let's start with the trackable metrics. At the monitor stage, so we're looking at what are the specific metrics that will allow you to be able to see what kind of progress you're making, how you're doing, what is indicative of that stage. So some of the metrics will be unique to that stage. Some metrics will overlap a little bit, but maybe apply to different segments of people. So at the monitor stage, there are both hard metrics like, how many tweets are happening by brand last week, or how many mentions of your brand happen in the blogosphere. Those are very specific metrics that you can get hard numbers on. Sorry, we've got a little fire engine here running behind us. The other is what Todd was mentioning before in terms of sentiment, which is what we call a derived metric. So that is something where people are out there talking, and then they have positive or negative, and that sort of rolls up into a metric. It's not as hard, but it's certainly an important metric that that is something that you can monitor at that stage. At the engagement stage, it's really about how many fans, how many followers, how many people have said, okay, you're doing something interesting and valuable, and that I want to be connected with you. How many comments or conversations have you engaged in? So on a proactive side, how much have you gone out and participated in different conversations? At the promotion stage, how many visits from how many people signed up for your newsletters or webinars from social? How many people have clicked to your site from content you've syndicated? So these are, again, harder metrics that someone has said, okay, I'm interested in this person, I'm maybe following them on Twitter, now they've promoted some content, and you've got me to come to your site. You've got me to engage at a little bit deeper level. The next stage is the nurture stage, and this is the stage after someone has sort of taken the next step to come to you and participate more actively on their side. It's a bit more difficult to measure because in the standard world, you can get someone to your site and they can sign up for a newsletter, and then you can do perhaps a drip campaign or some sort of direct email, or you can do some retargeting around display. What we're seeing is that the tools for the nurture stage of social media are not really as well developed as certainly the listening, engaging, and to a certain extent the promotion stage. But this is definitely a stage in the process that you want to think about some metrics. Some ways we think about include repeat visits, number of direct messages in Twitter, so someone is actively engaging you that way, number of responses to questions you posted, or responses you've posted to questions in maybe your LinkedIn group. Then the next stage is the selling stage. So the selling or conversion stage is all about looking at the history of that relationship and how much social media played into it. In traditional internet marketing, a lot of times the last click before the conversion is sort of the winner. It's the easiest to measure. Someone clicks on the paid search campaign, they convert. But really what you have to look at, and social media is driving a lot of this, is you have to look at the complete relationship. This aspect of social media, the interactive, the multiple touch points, is really driving a lot of thinking about attribution measurement. I want to give a quick example of, or a quick analogy around dating to help sort of solidify some of these metrics. So if you are you're in your signal, you're looking for someone, at the monitor phase, you're really looking for opportunities to meet someone. One approach might be bars or clubs, while another approach might be mutual friends, group activities that you can join, work events, and things like that. So you're in the monitoring phases, saying, what, I'm looking for something for someone, and see what's out there. At the engagement stage, let's say that you've been invited to a friend's house for a party. You go to the party, you're participating. Suddenly now at the engagement stage, you're looking at, okay, how many people did I meet? How many different discussions did I have? How many times did I find someone that might be interesting to me? And then the next part of that is to promote. So did I get their phone number? Did I maybe get their email address? Did I get their Twitter handle? So have we sort of taken that next step? Nurture phase is going on a number of dates, things go well, and then the sell phase is the wedding. So as you can see, I think there's a good corollary to the relationship aspect to what people are doing both in terms of selling but also within social media. Now we get into the tracking and measurement piece. So establishing those metrics up front by category, making those proper and appropriate to your business type. again, with your B2B, B2C, things like that. Earlier in the deck, slides 8, 9, and 11 have some great examples of specific measurements that you should look at and see how those plug into your particular business and then at what particular stage. So this deck will be available for download later on, so you can have those at the ready. But selecting the metrics that are actionable is the first step, and then you've got to align the tools with your metrics. Align them with your metrics, align them with your budget, and time resources is critical. It doesn't make sense to spend thousands of dollars on a sentiment monitoring solution if you're not going to actively manage that particular metric. In the monitor phase, just a few examples. The Google Alerts is a great free tool for monitoring brand mentions of you and your competitors. Todd just mentioned another free tool, Social Mention. There's some low-cost subscription tools like Position 2 and Radiant 6. These will help you sort of really monitor what people are talking about your site and then sentiment for your brands. On the engagement side, how many people are following you? How many people are fans? How many people are in your connections? How many people are watching your YouTube videos? How many people are making comments? So how many people are, have said, okay, interesting, I'll keep an ear out for these folks, and then maybe or maybe not I'll really participate with them. On the engagement side, the social networks themselves are great for understanding how many followers, fans, connections you have. They have great hard metrics that you can plug into your week-over-week or month-over-month reporting. On the nurturing side, so on the promote side, like Optify is a good tool for looking at some of your site. Google Analytics, Omniture, many of the analytics companies will see who's coming to your site as from a particular reference source, from a particular social media network. On the nurture site, again, the nurturing is probably a less developed stage of the whole process, but it's a tougher stage to measure, and we'll see more tools come out to help here. But the tracking of number of direct messages, number of visitors from specific content, syndication. The tools that we've seen that are the most effective here combine off-site tracking with on-site tracking. And these are the types of things that, as you build out your program, are to keep an eye on. And then on the selling piece, I'll show you a slide here in a second about attribution, but it's how many different touches does it take to get that person into a selling relationship? How many, not just where were the last people they were from, but since social media is so interactive and can be influential throughout the entire process, how does that lead to a specific engagement?
Scott, I love this example you used, and the one point I wanted to bring up real quickly was the fact that we see, so many times, as marketers, we become very impatient, and we want to move people as quickly as possible, and skip as many steps as possible to get to that sell. And sometimes that happens where things can move very rapidly, but having this methodical process and having a plan and having it set up is essential. And I know that you were mentioning like the nurturing. That is definitely a challenge, but we are seeing more and more every day where marketers are having more success. I would recommend people taking a look at like for example Brian Carroll, who does lead generation for the Complex Sale, his book. But just recently talking with him, and he was starting to show how some success has been in that nurturing process, and it's doable, and that's why we really as marketers need to keep on top of this, because things are changing very rapidly. So the things that are difficult today could be very, very much doable 6 months from now.
Yeah, Todd, it's a great point, and I think one of the things that we've sort of left out of the social media equation is the thought of someone communicating with someone prior to them sort of raising their hand and becoming engaged versus someone who already knows who you are. What kind of information can you provide? What kind of conversations can you have? What kind of content can you publish? You know, when you've got that one-to-one relationship with an email address or something like that, and you've got some you know, good analytics behind you, it's easier to make those type of, you know, drip campaign type communications. But in social, you know, you don't tend to have that same advantage. It's, you know, if you're going to publish something to your entire network, you're publishing to their entire network, whether they are a current customer or, you know, they haven't signed up with your particular service or not. So that, I think that nurturing piece is going to be a big area coming through in the next year or so.
Yeah, you're right.
I wanted to show a quick screen. So we, within Optify, we do tracking at the individual level for real-time B2B marketers. And, you know, this is an example of a lead that's come in, and, you know, they've hit several different referral types. So they've come in direct, type in a particular name, URL. They've come in through a Twitter link. They've come in through referral, through Facebook, through direct. And you can imagine them coming back through organic or through other programs. So, you know, I think as the concept of multiple touches and how different channels can influence someone's interaction with you and getting them to the point where they are engaged and signed up as a lead, I think you'll see more and more attribution models and tools like we're putting together at Optify show up. So we're talk a little bit about reporting results, and this is another area that I think social media is still behind a little bit on, in that you know, there are very few sort of really good tools for combining, you know, all of the stages into a single report. So again, where you can get you know, specific information around your sentiment or mentions or posts or things like that from various tools, you know, really trying to tie that into a social media marketing dashboard, so you're looking at all the different phases and then showing specific metrics. You know, we haven't really seen many tools around that. You know, the web analytics platforms like Omniture and WebTrends, and, you know, they're adding those items in and they're talking about measurement, but they're not really breaking it down by the different stages of the relationship. So, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, Excel is very flexible. And so, you know, we tend to use Excel to a certain point where we've got all of our different marketing metrics together and creating a single marketing dashboard. But I did want to just give you a few tips on the reporting, so that when you do create reports, you've got, you know, the best practices behind you. One is always have someone on point for understanding the source of data and reporting it in a single format. This really helps with the efficiency of the report development, and also the speed in answering ad hoc questions, which always happens. You know, two, select a time work that really makes sense. Normally, a weekly review of social is appropriate, while some with less resources or a lower focus might stretch it out to monthly. You know, include social media as a part of your overall marketing reporting. A separate social media report that doesn't roll into the overall reporting, one, it sends the wrong message, and two, you can't start aligning these social media KPIs with the other marketing channels that you have going on. So if you're reporting on a weekly basis, you should be reporting all of your marketing channels on a weekly basis in a single view that can roll up and see how it's impacting top-line results. Try and make the metrics as actionable as possible. So if, you know, do we want 100 more fans, or do we want 1,000 more followers, or do we want to engage in 12 more conversations? The more actionable those metrics can be, the more you can show progress over time. And that's really, that's the fifth point too, is really look at not just how accurate the individual metrics are, but pick a single system and then look at how that changes over time. It's really the direction that you're going based on the system of measurement you put in place. That's the most important thing in terms of driving your business. So that's the framework. Here's
Have we lost Scott?
We might have lost Scott there for a minute.
Okay.
Apologize. So essentially this wrap-up slide, Scott was just briefly commenting on it, and of course you're going to get this whole deck, and this summarizes everything that he was running through line by line. And so I think we're going to...
I was going to interject with a couple of comments, and then I wasn't sure if I was not hearing Scott or if it was just me or the audience. So I'll just go ahead. One thing I wanted to mention is, as marketers, don't be bashful about using Excel. I just had a webinar last week on lead management, and the number one tool that marketers were using were the good old Excel spreadsheet. Not that we want to stay with Excel, but that is the reality that many of us are faced with. So we want to move ahead and get to the next level. But on the other hand, the most important part is the fact that we are able to have the right information and also geared toward knowing our audience. For example, there may be metrics that you have. It doesn't mean that every person above you wants that metrics, because it doesn't really mean anything to them. So if you're talking to your CMO versus your CEO, there may be different data you want to show them. Not that you're hiding data, but just the fact that it may not mean anything to one individual as far as like how many people we have on our on our Twitter following. They may be much more interested in knowing the engagement process and the conversions of our social media to sales and things of that nature. So just really be mindful of who you are presenting your data to.
Well, thanks for that, Todd. I think there's lots of analytics tools that have good reporting. Optify included, of course, has a good reporting tool. And we do see Excel get used, but I think it tends to be at the lower end of the scale, perhaps, or at the simpler end of the scale, depending on how complex your reporting needs are. But great comments. Thanks for putting them in there.
I think most marketers are hoping that they can keep moving away from Excel, and that's the ultimate goal. Unfortunately, we have better options now that actually can make that happen.
Right. Great. Well, I don't need to go anywhere. We have some questions and answers and some comments to talk about, and then we have some special slides that give you some special offers at the end from Marketing Sherpa as well as from Optify. So please, this isn't the end of the presentation. Hang on there. So we have a question, and this can be for Todd or Scott, but the question comes in from Caroline. What category would a user referring another person fall into? Excuse me. Okay. For example, at my friend, hey, check out at iFiCard. They look perfect for you. Does that make sense for you guys to try to answer, Todd or Scott?
Yeah, that really depends on if that's coming from Twitter or if it's coming from a URL that could be preferred. And so what we would see is that we would see that as a Twitter source, and then depending on the source of that particular link or piece of traffic, that would show up with a campaign tracking code on it, or in this case it looks like it's more organic, so it would just show up as a referral from Twitter.
And then we had Caroline made another, I think it's the same Caroline, made another great comment, and the comment was, in all fairness, time is part of the ROI. So obviously 300 hours for a $1 purchase equals bad ROI, right? So you're absolutely right, Caroline, and we'll add some time management tools to the PDF that we're going to send out to everyone, so you'll have some ideas on how to manage that and track those things.
Yeah, that is a critical part whenever we're looking at it, because marketers are being asked more and more that question of, why should I invest not just the dollars but the time? And I would imagine if we did a quick survey of all the marketers here, probably time is our greatest enemy. And as marketers, I think the fun and the excitement we have as marketing is the fact that every day is a little bit different. And the frustration, though, is also the fact that your job's never done, and you can always be doing something else. And I know working at Sherpa, we're always trying to provide research and case studies to help marketers make better decisions on what to do and what not to do, because it's just a wealth of things that we can do. And the real key to success is deciding, out of everything we can do, what are we going to actually, devote our time to, especially as you get up into higher level positions.
Right, and I think thanks for all that, Todd. And I think the beautiful thing is that we've laid out. This was certainly not a sales presentation today, but an educational session. I call it a jam session, as we're talking about all these strategies, and the lack of a strategy is actually, some of the biggest challenges that we face as marketers. So I appreciate and then Scott's going to make a comment here, and then I'm going to, hold on, let Scott talk.
I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood Carolyn's question about if someone makes a referral, where would that show up in the categories of the process? And I think that would really fall under promote. So just because I don't promote my site, someone else promotes the site, and that becomes an engagement for me, I would definitely classify that as something, a referral of a third party to another third party as part of the promotion phase.
All right, thanks for clarifying, Scott. That's perfect. And as we wrap up here, I'm going to let Todd walk through these two slides. Marketing Sherpa has generously provided a couple of great discounts for a handbook they have, as well as for their summit, which is very, very well attended. And so thanks, Todd, for offering that. And I'll let you just briefly mention these two things.
Oh, sure. Thank you, TJ. And by all means, everything here is just for your, hopefully for your benefit. If you take advantage of it, that would be great. But we hope that this presentation was helpful in answering some questions. Our social marketing roadmap handbook we just released. It's about 150 pages, and it really provides a lot of checklists and tools that marketers can use and case studies from other marketers on what's working. We're going to provide a case study, an outline of a case study on your PowerPoint that you received today, and from a company in Boston, just kind of outlining, it was a accounting firm, and it really outlines how they were able to use social media and some other marketing tactics to go from, a company was relying on very expensive traditional marketing, direct mail, telemarketing, to lower cost and more effective marketing in social media, search, and the way they redesigned their website. So this book is just really intended to give you very hands-on, practical how-tos. And the other offer, I want just to let people know that we are going to be, Marketing Sherpa will be having our B2B summits in October, one in San Francisco and one in Boston. And these will be entirely devoted on helping marketers go from, lead generation to lead nurturing to sales-ready leads, very hands-on, tactical on, social media, search, lead nurturing programs, lead scoring. And so check out the website. We're actually, over the next couple of days, we'll have the preliminary agenda for the summit. And I would love to have that opportunity to meet everybody face-to-face.
All right. Thank you, Todd. And we've got just one more slide, but I want to mention that we're going to, I've been fortunate to review many of Marketing Sherpa's pieces and always learned a ton from them. So we're going to be doing a short review and putting that on the Optify blog. And I'm going to turn over the close to Scott, and he'll just make the final comments here. Thanks again, Todd. I'm going to let Scott close.
All right. Thanks for attending today. We really appreciate your time. We will be posting this by Thursday morning. The URL is there. You can also just find it through the homepage of Optify. Again, you can learn more about Optify at www.optify.net and get a free 30-day trial. So thanks for attending today. And if you do have any additional questions or comments or thoughts, we'd love to hear them too. You can just send them to me at Scott@optify.net. and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.